I set it into a mimosa, like the bubbles would carry it away. Don't be me, I told my friend Karina. Don't settle. I twirled the straw and pretended not to notice my wedding band catching the morning light. It was a Saturday, 10 girls in a long booth at a place with fern wallpaper and a pancake flight, the kind of scene you post so people think your life is frothy and sweet. My husband, Mark, was in the kitchen because the restaurant is attached to his hotel. Manager on duty, headset clipped, walking the dining room between crises. He had just stopped by our table 5 minutes earlier to kiss my temple and joke that he'd comp our coffees if we stopped scaring the brunch crowd. I didn't know he was still within earshot when I leaned toward Karina and said the ugliest thing I've ever said out loud. You get one life, I said. Don't waste it on polite. The table went quiet. Someone laughed a little too loud and changed the subject. I sipped, felt the sugar claw at my throat, and told myself I'd meant it as a joke. I didn't. When Mark came back with the check, he didn't look at me the way betrayed men look in movies. He looked like a person trying to hear a noise behind a wall. He put the receipt down, winked at Karina, because that is the kind of man he is, and said to me, I'll see you at home. At home, he didn't fight. He folded 2 towels and set them perfectly on the rack like a ridiculous metaphor for a life he's made tidy on purpose. Then he sat across from me at the kitchen table and asked, Is that how you talk about me when I'm not standing there? I tried to reframe. It was just girl talk. She's on the fence about moving in with her boyfriend, and I wanted to warn her not to end up with a man like me, he finished politely. He's always polite. That's one of the things I've been unkind about because it mirrors me back in ways I don't like. I didn't say your name, I said, like cowardice is a defense. You wore your ring, he said. Same thing. He didn't ask for details. He didn't demand apologies on a deadline. He pulled out his phone, tapped a note and said, This is what we'll do. He read, slowly, like he was installing the scaffolding that would keep the building from collapsing on our daughter while we figured out whether to renovate or move out. First, I'm moving into the guest room. Not to punish you. To give us both space to stop bleeding on the floor. He looked up to make sure I was still listening. I was. The word punish made my mouth go dry. Second, communications about anything hard go into email, not mouth. We are terrible at talking when we're hot. Third, if we're going to try, we try in counseling. Not in friends group chats. Not at brunch. You heard one sentence in your... I started. No, he said, still mild. I've heard versions for a while. Today was just louder. I won't chase real in the mouths of people who think turning a nice man into a punchline is a hobby. Our daughter, Mia, wandered in then with yogurt on her cheek, a unicorn shirt twisted backward, and a sock half on. Mark wiped the yogurt with a dish towel and spun the shirt with the kind of smoothness you only get from practice. You look like you're going to slay the math review, he said. She beamed. He packed her little backpack and added a sticky note inside. You're brave. Daddy. I watched him do all of it and still said awful things about him later. This is a confession, not a defense. He moved into the guest room that night. He slid a paper under my door like a hotel under his management. Counseling options. 3 names. 1 with evening hours. 1 with a sliding scale because he knows I'll say costs like it excuses everything. There's a post-it on top. Pick one by Monday. I'll make the call. Mark wins like that. By doing instead of performing. My father is a volume man. Mark is a list man. I should have respected the list. I tried to ice him out to make him come closer. So now you're the victim? I said the next night when he didn't join me on the couch. You're going to play heartbroken to get points. He looked up from the dishwasher and wiped his hands. I'm going to be dignified so Mia doesn't think marriage is a sport where one parent runs commentary, he said. Then he went back to stacking plates like little moons. In therapy, the counselor was one of those women whose eyes are pools you could fall into. She said, when you said don't settle, what did you mean? And I had to finally pick the sentence up and hold it with my bare hands. I meant I want more excitement, I said. I want effort. I want romance that isn't a reminder on a phone or a Google Calendar invite called anniversary dinner. Mark said, I thought effort was cleaning the gutters before the storm, so you didn't have to worry. I thought romance was never letting your gas tank dip below a quarter because your mother ran out on the highway when you were 8. I thought love is making boring possible. The counselor didn't do the thing I hoped she would, which was to pick a team. She drew a picture of 2 lanes and wrote boring over one, fire over the other. She asked me how old I was when I decided boring equals contempt. She asked Mark when he learned fire equals damage. She used the word repair like it was a verb we could conjugate if we stopped trying to win. We lasted 3 sessions. Here's the thing I kept silent about because it makes me sound shallow. Karina's boyfriend sends her flowers to work twice a month. Mark sends me screenshots of airline points and the cheapest day to fly for a summer trip we haven't booked because we're too careful. Karina's boyfriend writes big captions with hearts. Mark's captions are grocery lists with heart emojis at the end.
Karina's boyfriend trop surprise party.
Mark never surprises anyone because he thinks logistics are kindness. I told myself I needed roses, not receipts. I told myself polite is a synonym for small. And then that brunch sentence made my private dissatisfaction public, and my husband did something I didn't expect from a polite man. He took his dignity back and put walls around it. He stopped letting me rehearse fights with him in the kitchen when Mia was in the other room. He would point to the email posted on the fridge with the counseling times and say, "Pick this up in that room, not here," and then he'd make sure the chicken didn't burn. He stopped asking me what I needed from the grocery store every time he left. Instead, there was a shared list and a weekly budget I pretended to hate because spreadsheets feel like judgment. He didn't go cold with Mia. He went warmer. He cut oranges for her soccer team and learned the names of every girl on her row and kept his face open even when I wanted him to finally break and show the drama that would make me feel less like the villain. I told my friends he was playing the victim because the alternative is admitting I made a mess and he refused to live in it. They said the things friends say when you serve them your version. He's emotionally withholding, he's stonewalling. He doesn't fight for you. Meanwhile, he was the one who remembered dentist appointments, emailed the teacher about the allergic reaction to a new laundry soap, and sanitized the water bottles without making a speech. He also did something that made me ache with a new kind of loss. He got tender with himself. He started running in the mornings. He bought a pair of trail shoes and used them. He invited a neighbor dad to hit the climbing gym on Wednesday nights and came back chalk-dusted and smiling. He took his wedding ring off and put it on the dresser when he showered. Sometimes he forgot to put it back on. He didn't leave it on purpose to make a point. He left it because he was finally moving through the house without bracing for my weather. 2 months in, he sent me an email titled proposal. My stomach dropped. It was 2 pages.
No romance.
No, please. Just math and calendars and a new rule that made me feel small and also safe. We'll split weeks with Mia. 2-2-3 to start, so she never goes more than 3 days without either of us. Exchanges at school or curbside. Non-disparagement in front of Mia and in public. If either of us slips, we repair to her directly. I said something unkind. That was wrong. Household costs. Divide by after-tax income until the lease ends. Reassess if we sell or renew. Communication. Biff, brief, informative, friendly, firm.
No midnight esas.
Counseling. I'll keep going. You choose if you want to. Outcome agnostic. If we repair, we do so with a new covenant. If we don't, we dissolve with dignity. Either way, Mia's calendar comes first. I cried while I read it because it felt like a divorce. It was actually a gift, a way to stop making our child the airbag for our collisions.
I signed.
We started. The house got quieter and kinder. Mia adjusted faster than I did because kids don't need narratives, they need predictability. She stopped asking, "Are you and Daddy mad?" and started asking, "Whose night is spaghetti?" I stopped trying to make Mark respond to my 11:11 p.m. You didn't try texts and started writing them in an unsent draft folder, like a grown-up with a keyboard. Somewhere in there, I apologized for the sentence that started this. Not a sorry if, not a sorry but. I told him in the most boring way possible. An email with a subject line that read simply, "I was cruel." I wrote, I said something contemptuous that I've been thinking for a while and dressing up as humor because I didn't want to do the work of asking you for what I need. You deserved a direct conversation, not an audience. You're a good man. My dissatisfaction is not an indictment of your character. It's a call for me to grow up. He replied 5 hours later, 3 sentences. Thank you. I'm not returning to the guest room. I'm staying in the guest room while we decide who we are. That last sentence was like a page torn out of a book I didn't know he carried. He'd stopped being the thing I define and started being the thing he chooses. We went to 2 more counseling sessions. The counselor asked, what would repair look like? He said, I'd like to be told the truth before the brunch. I said, I want to be romanced without needing to pretend to be a princess. She said, romance is not diametrically opposed to receipts. The problem is contempt. She taught me to say, I miss, instead of you never, I tried it. He heard it. He brought me flowers one Tuesday, for no reason. I made a big deal out of a small thing and felt ridiculous, like learning to walk in shoes I should have broken in a decade ago. But here is the truest part, the part that puts a period at the end of this. Even with the flowers and the calendar working and Mia thriving, the silence between us grew into something we could lean on without falling through. It also became a valley I couldn't pretend wasn't there. On a Friday in late fall, Mark sat with me on the back steps while Mia rode her scooter in gentle circles. The maple was doing its annual fireworks. He said, very calmly, like giving a weather report, I'm going to get my own place when the lease is up.
Close.
Walking distance. I'll keep the schedule. I'll mow the lawn until we decide to sell. I'll fix the gutter because it bothers me. I won't live in a house where my wife once called me a settlement. I don't anymore, I said, immediately, like a child. He nodded. I know. But I did. I can't unknow it. He didn't slam a door. He did not become the villain in anyone's story, including mine. He did not tell Mia anything except, Dad's moving to the blue house. You'll have 2 beds. We'll keep everything else the same. He didn't correct my friends when they made me the heroine in a tale about a man too passive to fight. He didn't correct them when they made him a saint either. He just opted out of the theater. He won if you need it scored. Not by humiliating me. Not by starving me. Not by finding someone new and parading her past my house. He won by refusing to argue with my contempt. He won by making the schedules sacred and the tone boring. He won by walking away while still carrying half the groceries and the entire co-parenting plan. He won by being a good man without letting me use that goodness as a doormat and then blame him for footprints. Karina didn't move in with her boyfriend. She didn't not settle because of my advice. She did it because she watched me set my marriage on fire for the drama and then watched my husband refuse to turn the flames into a show. She told me last week, I want what Mark is, but with my version of romance. I didn't know men like that existed until I saw him not take your bait. I texted Mark a photo of Mia asleep with a library book on her chest and the note he'd put in her backpack pressed under her cheek like a tissue. He heart-reacted and wrote, Thanks. That's how we talk now. Small. Enough. I don't think I settled. I think I mistook gentle for lesser and couldn't stand my reflection in a decent man's eyes. He took those eyes and put them somewhere they'd be cherished. I'm learning too late that polite is not the enemy of passion. Contempt is. If you're waiting for the part where he turns cruel so I can feel vindicated, it isn't coming. He's the same man who comped our coffee and kissed my temple in a room full of witnesses. He just won't be my witness anymore.